In Ohio. 9 on Your Side's Jay Warren was there as a mother pleaded for her son's life.
Teenager who was about to begin a career in the military. An autopsy just finished up. We've learned where investigators found the body.
Mother said that she doesn't want him to be remembered as a victim. They plan to set up a foundation to help other kids and keep his memory alive.
All I'm asking you for is a chance for me to become a better person.
But again, it's sad at the same time because this could have been prevented. Austin made this choice.
I'm asking you not to do this to my brothers and my sisters.
Be a clean and neat murder.
Can I please have
I thought that if I went in there and told him that I did every single thing that happened up there, that to Daryl.
Living with taxpayers' money, paying for her to live in jail to get an education.
It is therefore ordered that
through absolute hell. And I can't imagine anybody going through that. And I can't imagine
Take full responsibility for
a bit and admit that jailers, like at the Tucker farm down in Arkansas, who get
depending on a mood, that would trigger one or.
I just was in shock. We're only 15
men who didn't dress or look any different than lots of student types.
Physical objects, my possessions, other.
Austin Myers, a 19-year-old, committed such a gruesome crime that people could not even fathom what had happened. The only way to serve justice was to sentence him to his demise. Let's dive into this case. The chilling scene. In a chilling tale that gripped the nation, tragedy struck the quiet town of Waynesville, Warren County, Ohio, on that fateful day of January 28, 2014. The life of 18-year-old Justin Michael Back was brutally extinguished, leaving a community shattered and a family forever scarred by an unspeakable act of violence. But what unfolded in the aftermath of this heinous crime would send shockwaves through the nation as the true depths of darkness and injustice were unveiled.
About 3 minutes, occasionally looking down at his notes, he began by addressing the victim's parents.
Supreme Court puts an execution date on hold for the state's youngest death row inmate, 19-year-old Austin Myers.
Field near a bridge. Also today, I got my hands on these newly released documents from the Warren County Sheriff's Office.
Enter the names Austin Gregory Myers and Timothy E. Mosley, two individuals whose souls were tainted by malevolence and greed. In a twisted plot, they conspired to invade Back's family home, driven by a sinister motive to pilfer a safe, an emblem of precious secrets and valuable treasures. Little did they know that their insatiable thirst for material gain would plunge them into wickedness, one that would forever haunt the country.
A teenage killer officially sentenced to death.
I can only imagine what it would be like to lose one of them.
Justin was trying to ask us why. He was clean to stop.
In Ohio. 9 on Your Side's Jay Warren was there as a mother pleaded for her son's life.
Declined to comment today. Justin's mother says she wants her son to be remembered as an innocent young man.
The background. Myers and Back were buddies during middle school, sharing laughter and mischief in 7th and 8th grade. Back, a graduate of Waynesville High School in 2013, stood on the verge of a bright future as he prepared to join the Navy. But little did he know that tragedy lurked in the shadows, waiting to shatter his dreams. One day, Myers approached Mosley with an intriguing proposition, a chance to make some quick cash. Mosley was enticed, and they pondered their targets. Should they rob a drug dealer or Back's stepfather, Mark Cates? Myers knew that Cates had a safe in their family home, safeguarding both money and a firearm. In Myers' mind, the safe held a fortune of $20,000. Fueled by their desire for wealth, they set their sights on Back's residence in Waynesville, intending to seize the contents of the safe. However, their plans quickly shifted when they were discovered that Buck was home. Fearing the potential consequences, they aborted the mission. As they retreated, a sinister idea began to take shape.
Teenager who was about to begin a career in the military. An autopsy just finished up. We've learned where investigators found the body.
And Mike, Austin Myers had another shot today. He asked the judge to spare his life.
Myers, driven by twisted thoughts, conceived a dreadful notion: to eliminate Back. In his twisted logic, this act would not only silence their friend, but also provide them with a convenient cover story. The plan unfolded with Myers envisioning a gruesome end for Back, strangling him with a wire. With their friend's life extinguished, Myers and Mosley could stage a scene, making it appear as if Back had stolen the safe and vanished into thin air. To perform their sinister plan, Myers acquired a 3-foot steel cable and 2 metal rope cleats. The tools of their wicked trade would serve as the instruments of Back's demise. Assembling the garrote, a contraption to choke the life out of their friend, they set the stage for the following day, when darkness would descend and their heinous act would be unleashed upon the world.
Create no mess, pretty much be an easier job to handle.
His mother said that she doesn't want him to be remembered as a victim. They plan to set up a foundation to help other kids and keep his memory alive.
Well, guys, for the first time, the jury heard from Austin Myers himself. He spoke to them for about 3 minutes.
But I'm sorry. I wish I could go back in time and stop this.
The tragic slaying. On the dark morning of January 28, 2014, Myers and Mosley went on a haunting shopping spree. Packing up on some sinister supplies, they acquired septic enzymes, ammonia, septic tank cleanser, and rubber gloves, a collection that would soon serve prominent in Back's last moments. With their sinister purchases in hand, they left on a journey that would forever alter the course of their lives and others. The clock struck 1 p.m. as they arrived at Back's residence, a place that would soon become the backdrop of a nightmarish scene. Their plan was set in motion. The unsuspecting Myers would divert Back's attention, providing the opportunity for Mosley to unleash the deadly garrote upon their friend. Clad in rubber gloves, their intentions veiled in shadow, Mosley armed himself not only with the garrote, but also a 6-inch pocket knife, an object that would soon spill blood. A knock on the door reverberated through the house, and Back, unaware of the horrors about to unfold, welcomed his childhood companions into the sanctuary of his family home. As the trio engaged in casual conversation, the tension hung heavy in the air, each passing moment inching closer to the inevitable. Back, unwittingly moving towards his fate, ventured into the kitchen. The opportune moment presented itself, and Mosley struck, attacking from behind, attempting to suffocate his friend's life away. Myers, complicit in the act, joined the struggle, grasping Back from the front, their combined efforts transforming the kitchen into a battlefield. A grave error dawned upon the frenzied scene. A wire intended to encircle Back's neck instead rested perilously across his chin. Panic gripped Mosley, and in a frenzied state, he drew his knife from the shadows, plunging it into Back's defenseless form. Back, a young soul full of promise, met a tragic end, pierced by the cruel sting of betrayal. As Back begged for his life, Myers simply told him it would be over soon. In the wake of Back's demise, the house echoed with the frantic footsteps of the slayers turned looters.
At the official sentencing this afternoon, Judge Oda heard from Myers as well as Justin Back's family. Documents from the Warren County Sheriff's Office, and it provides a better timeline of how the crimes played out.
Doubt he'll ever tell me, but if he ever wants to, that's fine. I'm open to that. Send me a letter. That's fine.
18-year-old U.S. Navy recruit. Good evening, I'm Mike Dardis.
And I'm Cherie Palella. If Austin Myers is sentenced to death.
The safe, the elusive treasure trove of secrets and wealth, stood as an enigma before them, its contents tantalizingly out of reach, locked in secrecy. A discovery of Cates' handgun made the young slayers all the more happy. Returning to the kitchen, they attempted to conceal the evidence. The acrid scent of ammonia filled the air, a desperate attempt to erase the traces of their malevolence. Back's lifeless body was swathed in a blanket, concealed within the confines of Mosley's car trunk, a tragic cargo that would stay forever. Driven by greed, they searched the house, stealing everything they could, like jewelry, credit cards, and even the remnants of Back's life, clothing crammed into bags, a cruel reminder of the stolen existence. They loaded the car and departed from the house, the time marked ominously at 2 p.m., leaving behind a silence in their wake. While driving, Mosley became paranoid about being followed, so he took side roads to a remote area, where he parked and checked outside the car for blood. Myers searched for Back's wallet, which he located in one of the bags. The wallet contained more than $100, which Myers took. The two then drove back to Mosley's house, where they unloaded items from the car to Mosley's bedroom. Together, they dragged the safe up the stairs and changed their clothes. Mosley proposed dumping the body near West Alexandria, as he knew the area well. They decided to hide the body behind a log in a field near the village of Gratis in Preble County. Mosley drove into the field, stopping about 20 feet from the log. The pair carried the body to the log and laid it on the ground. Myers then poured ammonia and septic enzymes onto the corpse, which was still clothed and partly wrapped in the blanket. According to Mosley, Myers wanted to shoot the body, so Mosley got the stolen gun from the car and handed it to Myers, who fired 2 shots into Back's body. The gun jammed on the 3rd shot. Myers cleared the jam, ejecting the bullet to the ground, where the police later found it. After they hid the body, Myers suggested they slay Cates to make it look like he had slain Back and disappeared. Deciding against it, the men drove to a park in Brookville, where Mosley tossed Back's laptop into a dumpster. They bought a crowbar in Englewood and went back to Mosley's house to crack open the safe. Instead of the $20,000 that Myers had promised, the safe contained some paperwork, loose change, bullets, gun accessories, and other random items. Myers and Mosley separated items that they thought they could sell. Afterward, they burned the papers, several trash bags containing evidence of the crime, and their bloody clothes in a fire pit in the backyard. Myers and Mosley put everything that looked valuable from the house and safe into a bag. They then drove to Tip City, where they threw Cates' safe into a river.
But again, it's sad at the same time, because this could have been prevented. Austin made this choice.
I want to help people. I want to...
Austin could have stopped it, but tells Justin, it's okay, it's almost over.
All I'm asking you for is a chance for me to become a better person.
That if we dismissed all charges against him, that he wouldn't sue me for wrongful imprisonment.
Help stop tragedies like this from happening.
To go get his gun out of pawn in Dayton and use that gun as well as the one they stole from Mark Cates.
A troubling investigation. Cates came home from work around 3:30 p.m., realizing that a table had been moved and some rugs were missing. Later, he and his wife found his safe and his handgun missing. They called the police and tried to contact Back, but discovered his cell phone had been left inside the house. During the investigation, officers described a car that had been seen outside Back's home. It had a distinctive missing back window, covered in plastic and red tape. Cates told police that Myers had visited their home the day before in that same car. Warren County Sheriff's detectives searched for Myers and the suspicious vehicle. The car was located by Clayton police, who detained Myers at Mosley's house and notified the Warren County detectives. Detectives interviewed Myers at Clayton Police Station on January 29. Myers denied knowing anything about Back's disappearance or the burglary at Back's home. After the interview, Myers was taken back to Mosley's house, and Mosley was taken to the station for questioning. When the detectives finished talking with Mosley, he was returned to his house also. Based on what they learned, the detectives had Clayton police officers arrest Mosley and Myers and return them to the station. The detectives again interviewed Mosley and then Myers. Myers eventually admitted that he had been present when Mosley knifed Back. He said that when he had gone to hang out with Back on January 28, he did not know that Mosley was going to slay Back, nor did he know why Mosley had slain Back. Myers denied shooting Back's body, claiming that Mosley had done that instead. In adjacent holding cells, Mosley overheard Myers implicating him alone for the slaying. When the detectives interviewed Mosley, he confessed to the crime, but implicated Myers in planning the burglary. Following Mosley's confession, the detectives interviewed Myers again, who changed his story. This time he admitted shooting the body in a foolish attempt at misdirection and acknowledged buying the materials to make the garret and other things, like ammonia and septic tank.
Finished up, we've learned where investigators found the body, and police gave insight into how they made the arrest so fast.
I'm sorry that this happened. I know that doesn't bring Justin back, but I'm sorry.
Never felt like you hit bone or anything like where it was tough. It was just really
in and out.
Really?
I had enough time.
A lot of good things I can do with my life if you allow me to keep my life.
He continued to deny that he had restrained Back during the slaying, insisting he was not even aware he was being knifed at the time, but merely punched, claiming he was left in a state of shock and disbelief on seeing all the blood. The same day, Preble County Sheriff's deputies found Back's body after getting approximate directions from Myers. A Montgomery County coroner autopsy determined that Back had perished of multiple severe knife wounds.
Justin back. It's only going to hurt more innocent people. If you kill me, it won't fix anything. I don't want to hurt people. I'm not asking you to lose your son. I can't imagine to lose your brother.
Sentenced 19-year-old Austin Myers to death. He is now the youngest person on death row in Ohio.
Difficult testimony to hear today. Timothy Mosley testified that some of Justin Back's last words were why.
Trial and sentencing. Myers was indicted in February 2014 on 1 count of aggravated slaying with prior calculation and design and 1 count of aggravated slaying. Both counts were accompanied by 3 capital penalty specifications. Myers was further indicted for aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, grand theft of a firearm, and harming a corpse, all with an accompanying firearm specification, and kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and safecracking. Mosley was indicted on similar charges.
To go through such pain and suffering as this.
Myers showed no emotion as the death sentence was imposed. In fact, he showed no emotion throughout the entire course of the trial.
I would just hope that every time you close your eyes at night, you see my son Justin.
Be a clean and neat murder.
That's the testimony today from one of the 2 teenagers accused of killing Justin Back.
However, a week before Myers' jury trial, Mosley reached a plea agreement in which he agreed to testify against Myers. Mosley pled guilty to all charges in exchange for the dismissal of the penalty specifications. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The guilt phase of Myers' jury trial commenced on September 22, 2014. On October 2, 2014, the jury found Myers guilty on all counts and specifications. The 2 aggravated slaying counts were merged for purposes of sentencing. The state elected to proceed on the prior calculation and design aggravated slaying count with the aggravated robbery specification. The penalty phase of the jury trial was held on October 6, 2014. Myers presented the testimony of his parents and a sibling and made an unsworn statement by way of mitigation. Myers had no prior criminal history or delinquency adjudications. The jury recommended the capital sentence. On October 16, 2014, the trial court sentenced Myers to his demise and imposed prison punishment on the non-capital counts. Myers' conviction and his fatal sentence were subsequently upheld by the Ohio Supreme Court, State v. Myers.
This before it even happened, but I can't.
Hey, it's almost over. You could have changed your mind many times, but you didn't.
Send me a letter. That's fine.
Justin Back was just 10 days away from going into the Navy when he was killed.
This past January, they've caused more than enough pain already. Justin Back. It's only gonna hurt more innocent people. If you kill me, it won't fix anything.
Appeals post-conviction. On November 10, 2016, while waiting for a decision from the Supreme Court, Myers submitted a request for post-conviction relief, presenting 60 reasons for relief. What exactly is post-conviction relief, you might ask? Well, post-conviction relief refers to legal remedies or procedures available to individuals who have been convicted of a crime and exhausted their direct appeals. It provides an opportunity for convicted individuals to challenge their conviction or sentence based on constitutional violations, new evidence, or errors that may have occurred during the trial or appeal process. The purpose of post-conviction relief is to ensure that individuals have a fair chance to present new information or raise issues that were not previously addressed during their trial or appeals. It allows them to seek remedies such as a new trial, modification of their sentence, or correction of errors that may have affected their conviction.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Austin Myers.
Austin, is there something that you would like to say to the ladies and gentlemen?
Just random items.
My mom and my dad. And my brothers Bryce and Josh over there.
Just 10 days away from going into the Navy when he was killed. Today, his mother said that she doesn't want him to be remembered.
Cammie. The people that I love. Person and Sage. To my sisters, Alex and Jenna.
Post-conviction relief typically involves filing a petition or motion with the court that handled the original trial or appeal. The specific procedures and grounds for relief may vary depending on the jurisdiction and legal system. Common grounds for seeking post-conviction relief include ineffective assistance of counsel, newly discovered evidence, violation of constitutional rights, prosecutorial misconduct, or errors in the application of the law. It's important to note here that post-conviction relief is distinct from direct appeals, which focus on errors or issues that occurred during the trial or sentencing phase. Post-conviction relief provides an additional opportunity to challenge the conviction or sentence based on matters that may have arisen after the conclusion of the direct appeal process. Well, Myers' request for post-conviction relief challenged the constitutionality of the capital punishment and the Ohio laws governing its use. Myers argued that his lawyers did not provide effective assistance during the trial, both in proving his guilt and in the penalty phase. He also claimed that his due process rights were violated. On November 18, 2016, Myers asked for permission to conduct further investigations to support his post-conviction relief request. In 2017, the state responded to the request and then filed a motion for summary judgment. In January 2018, the trial court established a schedule allowing Myers to submit a supplemental request for investigations by March 1, 2018. The court also postponed ruling on the state's summary judgment motion until Myers' discovery request was resolved.
I can only imagine the pain and loss felt by Mark and Sandy Cates. If you choose for me to die, it's only going to cause more pain and suffering. I won't feel anything. It's going to hurt more innocent people. I'm asking you not to do this to my brothers and my sisters. Back, Justin's brother. I have brothers and sisters myself.
Justin was trying to put up a fight, and he wasn't overpowering us.
Ohio and capital punishment. Ohio has a long history with capital punishment, with laws governing capital punishment dating back to the early 19th century. Over the years, these laws have evolved, reflecting societal attitudes and legal developments. The first recorded fatal punishment in Ohio took place in 1803, and until 1885, the state relied on hanging as the primary method of punishing. In 1885, Ohio transitioned to the electric chair, becoming the first state to adopt this method. However, concerns about the constitutionality and humaneness of electrocution led to changes in the protocol. In 1972, the United States Supreme Court's ruling in Furman v. Georgia effectively suspended the capital punishment nationwide, deeming existing statutes unconstitutional. Ohio responded by enacting a new capital penalty law in 1981, which aimed to address the concerns raised by the court. Ohio's current fatal penalty statute provides for capital punishment in cases involving aggravated slaying, such as the one Myers is convicted in. Aggravating factors such as multiple victims, the commission of heinous crimes, or slaying related to specific offenses can make a defendant eligible for the capital penalty. The process of imposing the capital penalty in Ohio involves several stages, just like in any other state. First, the defendant is indicted and stands trial for aggravated slaying. If found guilty, a separate penalty phase follows, where the jury determines if the capital penalty is appropriate. During this phase, mitigating factors presented by the defense can be considered. Ohio utilizes lethal injection as the primary method. However, due to challenges with procuring drugs, the state has faced legal and logistical hurdles in carrying out such punishments. In response, alternative methods such as electrocution or firing squad are permitted if lethal injection becomes impractical or unavailable. Ohio's capital punishment system has faced significant scrutiny and controversy. Concerns have been raised about wrongful convictions, inadequate legal representation, racial disparities, and the arbitrary application of the penalty. High-profile cases, including instances of individuals being exonerated after years on the row, have intensified debates surrounding its fairness and reliability.
Back, Justin's brother. I have brothers and sisters myself. If you choose for me to die.
I never felt like it hit the bone or anything like where it was tough. It just really
in and out.
Really.
I had enough time.
I won't feel anything. It's gonna hurt more innocent people. I can only imagine what it would be like to lose one of them.
In response to these concerns, Ohio has implemented various reforms to address issues within its system. These reforms include improvements in the quality of legal representation, the establishment of the Ohio Public Defender Commission, and the creation of a statewide system for indigent defense. Currently, as of 2023, Ohio has an unofficial moratorium on capital punishment after GOP Governor Mike DeWine instructed lawmakers to find an alternative method to lethal injection, citing the state's inability to obtain the needed drugs. He has delayed several fatal punishments since. The state's last punishment was July 18, 2018, when Ohio put down Robert Van Hook for slaying David Self in Cincinnati in 1985. Ohio currently has 134 people on the row, according to the nonprofit Penalty Information Center. Right now, a dozen state senators are banding together to abolish the capital penalty in Ohio altogether. It is unclear if they'll garner enough support to end it. The first major hurdle is Senate President Matt Huffman, who opposes ending the capital punishment. However, Huffman said he would hold a vote on the bill if a majority of the 33-member Senate wanted it. The effort to end the capital penalty is a familiar one for State Senator Nikki Antonio. She has sponsored abolition bills every session for the past dozen years. Recently, in a news conference, Antonio said, "I believe it's indeed time for the state of Ohio to take the pragmatic, economically prudent, principled step to end capital punishment, which has been found to be expensive, impractical, unjust, inhumane, and in the past, even erroneous." Antonio said that every year she introduces the abolition bill, she has more bipartisan support. This time, she's starting out with 5 Republican and 7 Democratic co-sponsors. State Senators Steve Huffman and Michelle Reynolds both said their religious faith spurred them to join Antonio's effort. The bill would replace capital punishment sentences with life in prison without parole. If passed, it could change the game for Austin Myers entirely. He could be spared the capital punishment and instead get life in prison. If not, Myers would be the youngest individual to be put down in Ohio's history.
I'm asking you not to do this to my brothers and my sisters who love me.
To say to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes.
Go ahead.
More pain and suffering for another family.
And he told me about it.
What did he tell you?
He told me about Justin's house and his stepdad.
Further appeals. On March 1, 2018, Myers submitted a supplemental request for investigations, arguing that he had the right to conduct them based on the recently amended RC 2953.21, effective since April 6, 2017. The updated statute introduced significant changes regarding post-conviction relief requests in cases involving capital punishment. It allowed individuals facing capital punishment to obtain necessary information through investigations if they demonstrated good cause. On July 3, 2018, the trial court rejected Myers' request for investigations. The court stated that the amended RC did not explicitly state its retroactive application. Alternatively, even if the retroactive application was allowed, the court found that Myers had not shown good cause to conduct the investigations. On November 26, 2018, Myers submitted a written response opposing the state's motion for summary judgment. The response included 12 additional documents, such as affidavits, transcripts, and other evidence. This triggered further filings from both parties. However, the trial court never made a decision on the state's motion for summary judgment. Instead, on June 27, 2019, the trial court denied Myers' post-conviction relief request without holding a hearing. The court determined that Myers' claims were either previously settled or lacked sufficient factual basis to support relief, and thus no hearing was necessary. Myers then sought to appeal the trial court's denial of his post-conviction relief request and discovery motions. He raised 11 assignments of error to support his appeal. In 2021, it was found out that changes in the state law led to the 12th District Court of Appeals decision that the trial court erred in dismissing Myers' petition that claimed his defense failed to present expert testimony during the penalty phase on adolescent brain development, in conjunction with his age and mental health issues.
Justin back.
Obviously, Justin was trying to put up a fight, and
not me.
Send me a letter. That's fine.
Justin Back was just 10 days away from going into the Navy when he was killed.
My mom and my dad, and my brothers Bryce and Josh over there. The terrible events this past January have caused more than enough pain already. Help stop tragedies like this from happening.
Warren County Prosecutor David Fornshell said there has been substantial modification to the statute about appeals in the last years. So in many ways, this issue is kind of a matter of first impression on how to deal with these issues since the statute changed. He said the scope is very limited to discovery issues relating to youthful brain development, and if those specific issues should have been more a part of the mitigation phase. Fornshell said it is difficult with reviewing cases for anyone to know all the evidence considered by defense counsel and for what reasons. He further said his office was considering appealing the decision to the Supreme Court to provide some clarity so Myers' case would once again be heard in the Supreme Court. The age controversy. The controversial question of whether a 19-year-old should be given the capital penalty for a slaying is a deeply complex and emotionally charged topic that sparks intense debate among legal scholars, policymakers, and society as a whole. The issue revolves around the age at which individuals should be held accountable for their actions and the appropriate level of punishment they should face. We have to consider in this discussion the concept of developmental maturity. Adolescence is a period of significant cognitive, emotional, and social growth, and it is widely recognized that individuals in their late teens are still in the process of forming their identities and grappling with complex moral and ethical questions. Research in the field of neuroscience has shown that the human brain continues to develop well into the early 20s, particularly in areas associated with decision-making, impulse control, and risk assessment.
It's age. To my sisters, Alex and Jenna.
Obviously, Justin was trying to put up a fight, and
what did he tell you?
He told me about Justin's house and his stepdad, saying he has to say.
Look up to me. I ask you not to spread this pain. I don't want to hurt people. I'm not asking you to spare my life so I can hurt innocent back. It's only going to hurt more innocent people. If you kill me, they won't fix anything. This past January, they've caused more than enough pain already.
These findings raise questions about the extent to which 19-year-olds possess the same level of cognitive and emotional maturity as adults, and whether they should be held to the same standard of culpability. Proponents of not imposing the capital penalty on 19-year-olds argue that juveniles and young adults are more susceptible to external influences, making them more responsive to rehabilitation and reform efforts. They contend that factors such as upbringing, social environment, and peer pressure can significantly impact an individual's behavior, and that young offenders may possess a greater capacity for change and growth compared to their older counterparts. By focusing on rehabilitation rather than retribution, society can provide opportunities for personal transformation and ensure a safer and more just future. International human rights standards recognize the significance of age in criminal justice. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and subsequent international treaties prohibit the fatal punishment of individuals who committed offenses while under the age of 18. These legal frameworks emphasize the need for age-appropriate treatment, recognizing that young offenders require specialized interventions that promote their well-being and address the underlying factors contributing to their criminal behavior. However, proponents of applying the capital penalty to 19-year-olds argue that age alone should not be the sole determining factor in imposing the ultimate punishment. They contend that certain crimes, particularly heinous and premeditated slayings, like the one Myers committed, warrant the highest level of punishment, regardless of the perpetrator's age. The assertion is that age should not serve as a shield against accountability for grave offenses, and that the severity of the crime should be the primary consideration in determining the appropriate penalty. In legal proceedings, the consideration of mitigating factors is crucial when determining an appropriate sentence. Factors such as age, background, mental health, and potential for rehabilitation are taken into account to ensure that sentencing aligns with the principles of proportionality and justice. While the severity of the crime should be acknowledged, it is essential to strike a balance between accountability and the recognition of an individual's potential for change and growth. In recent years, there has been a growing trend towards recognizing the inherent vulnerability of young adults and the need for age-responsive justice systems which is why Myers actually has a shot at avoiding capital punishment. Some jurisdictions have implemented policies that aim to differentiate the treatment of young adult offenders from older adults, offering specialized programs and services tailored to their developmental needs. These approaches acknowledge the potential for rehabilitation and seek to prevent young offenders from becoming further entrenched in a life of crime. We also have to consider the fact that empirical evidence has demonstrated the potential for successful rehabilitation among young offenders. Studies have shown that the brain's plasticity and the capacity for change are particularly pronounced during adolescence and early adulthood. By providing comprehensive rehabilitation programs that address the root causes of criminal behavior, society can not only promote individual transformation, but also foster safer communities and reduce recidivism rates.
Ask us why. He was pleading to stop, pretty much begging for his life.
Today, his mother said that she doesn't want him to be remembered as a victim. They plan to set up a foundation to help other kids.
Listen back. It's only going to hurt more innocent people. Spare my life so I can hurt anyone. I want to help people.
Justin was trying to put up a fight, and he wasn't overpowering us.
Back, Justin's brother. I have brothers and sisters myself.
I never felt like it hit bone or anything like where it was tough. It just
was in and out.
Really?
I had enough time.
I can only imagine what it would be like to lose one of them.
Family in the aftermath. On January 28, 2014, darkness unexpectedly and violently entered the Back family's life when their 18-year-old boy Justin was slain. Justin Back's mother, Catherine, is a lady of iron. She continued to fight for Justin even years after his demise, going into every hearing, making sure that Meyer would not escape justice simply because he was young at the time of the attack. Justin's mother was shocked by what had happened. She lost her beloved son over a robbery that amounted to nothing. He had been taken from her for no reason at all. Only the selfishness and wickedness of two boys. While Meyer's lawyers tried to argue that due to his age, Myers should be spared the capital punishment, Catherine was there every step of the way to fight back and tell them that this was no accident. Myers had chosen Justin. He had chosen to slay him even after Justin had befriended him when they were younger and tried to help him through tough times. Since his demise, Kate's and her family have started an annual 5K run in Back's name, where they raise money for scholarships. They have also started a Pay It Forward for Justin campaign, where they have been asking people to do something nice in his honor. Justin's stepsister Lexi has done her best to bring some goodness out of an incident filled with so much violence and pain.
You're attempting to kill him.
In the lines of, it's all right, it's almost over.
Cammy, the people that I love. This past January, they've caused more than enough pain already. All I'm asking you for is a chance for me to become a better person.
Just 10 days away from going into the Navy when he was killed. Today, his mother said that she doesn't want him to be remembered.
If you kill me, it won't fix anything. It won't bring justice.
Just 14 at the time, Lexi heard the horrifying details at the trial in a Warren County courtroom. Justin was almost garroted, knifed 21 times, and then shot after he was slain. She sat through his funeral, which came just 10 days before the Wayne Township man was supposed to have joined the U.S. Navy. She sat through 2 jury trials of the young perpetrators, Mosley and Myers. Lexi said, "Everything changed. It was an eye-opening time for me. You realize that you can't take life for granted. You can perish at any time, and that's how I see life now. I hate that I have to see it that way, but I do." At Justin's funeral, when Lexi was looking at him in his open coffin, it brought her comfort to see that the funeral home staff had taken great care to make him look perfect. She felt that he looked like himself, in his Navy suit. He looked beautiful, and it was a comforting moment for her to see him look so peaceful after hearing of the horrible way he left this world. That was when Lexi decided to become a mortician. She began to research mortuary science in schools. Lexi wanted to honor Justin's memory. She wanted to support families that were also going through something difficult, like what they had just gone through. In 2019, Lexi was working at Newcomer's Funeral Home in Dayton. She was pursuing an associate's degree at Sinclair Community College in Dayton and her goal was to get her associate's degree, then one in mortuary science. She had a passion for making sure the lifeless members of a family received the respect and care they deserve. Lexi plans to open her own funeral home. It will be called the Back Funeral Home, and there will be a picture of Justin hanging in the foyer. Lexi's stepfather Mervyn, who is also Justin's biological father, said, "She had a strong desire. I had always encouraged her as a child. I told her that she could do anything she set her mind to. Do what makes her happy, and she followed that." Mervyn and Catherine were initially worried that it was too morbid a profession, but they came around and they say they were proud of her. Her mother said, "It takes a special person to do that job. It's not an easy career nor easy to handle that lifestyle, but Lexi is a pretty caring personality. She will make life easier for other families." Lexi is the example of someone who brought light from an incident that was shrouded by nothing but despair and horror. She is an angel like human, determined to be a light for others who need it. And that's the way Justin will be remembered, someone who left a little bit of good in this world even when he was not here to do it himself.
Behind the headlines lies the chilling tale of Krista Gale Pike, the youngest girl on the finality row, her haunting past, and the tears shed before her fateful ending. Today, we unravel this haunting mystery. Krista Pike's inauspicious beginnings. Krista Gale Pike, born on March 10, 1976, stands as a chilling figure in American criminal history, as she became the youngest woman to be sentenced to demise in the United States during the post-Furman period. Her life journey paints a harrowing portrait of troubled youth, lost innocence, and a descent into darkness. From an early age, Pike faced a tumultuous upbringing. Born in West Virginia, she was abandoned by her mother, a self-professed party girl, more interested in her vices than in caring for her daughter. Pike's father wanted no part in raising her, leaving her grandmother to step in and become her primary caretaker. However, tragedy struck when Pike was only 12 years old. Her grandmother passed away, leaving her world shattered. With no stable support system, Pike was forced to return to her neglectful mother. It was during this time that Pike's life took a troubling turn as her mother introduced her to marijuana, exposing her to substances at a young age. As Pike grew older, her violent tendencies began to surface. She dropped out of high school and found herself in trouble with the law, facing a shoplifting charge that led to a brief stint in juvenile detention. Seeking a fresh start and some guidance, she enrolled in the Job Corps program, which aimed to provide vocational training and career skills to low-income youth. Pike attended the Job Corps Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, hoping to build a better future for herself. However, instead of focusing on her studies and personal growth, Pike became consumed by her infatuation with Tedderil Shipp, a young man a year her junior. Their relationship took a sinister turn as they delve into the realms of the occult and devil worship. Together, they immersed themselves in a world of darkness, exploring macabre rituals and twisted ideologies. It was within this toxic dynamic that Pike's path crossed with that of her classmate, Colleen Slemmer. At the age of 18, Pike committed an unspeakable act of brutality that would forever stain her name. Motivated by jealousy and fueled by her sinister obsessions, she orchestrated the torture slaying of Slemmer. The details of the crime are haunting and gruesome, a chilling testament to the depths of Pike's darkness. The slaying of Colleen Slemmer. The chilling case of the Knoxville Job Corps slaying unveils a tale of darkness, obsession, and a horrifying slaying. Krista Pike and Tedderil Shipp, both with troubled backgrounds, found themselves entangled in a twisted love affair that led to a sinister plot. Raised by a single mother and involved with gangs, Shipp's path took a detour when he joined the Knoxville Job Corps at his mother's urging. Enrolled in the culinary arts program, he crossed paths with Pike, and their relationship developed rapidly. Both Pike and Shipp harbored a fascination with Satanism and the occult, which attracted like-minded individuals, including Shadola Peterson at the Job Corps. Enter Colleen Slimmer, a vibrant young woman from Jacksonville, Florida, who arrived at the Knoxville Job Corps to pursue computer technology studies. In a matter of months, tensions arose between Slimmer and Pike. Pike accused Slimmer of pursuing Shipp and attempting to steal him away, though Slimmer and her friends vehemently denied any romantic interest. Distorted by her obsession, Pike managed to convince Shipp and Peterson that Slimmer needed to be sacrificed in the name of Satan. Krista Pike's descent into darkness took a sinister turn when jealousy consumed her. Enraged by her unfounded belief that her classmate, 19-year-old university student Colleen Slimmer, was attempting to steal her boyfriend, Pike hatched a plan with her friend Shadola Peterson, 18 years old, to lure Slimmer to an abandoned steam plant near the University of Tennessee campus. On January 12, 1995, Pike, along with Shipp, Peterson, and Slimmer, signed out of their dormitory, pretending to make peace by offering Slimmer some marijuana. They proceeded to the woods, arriving at the isolated location where their true intentions unfolded. Slimmer fell victim to a vicious attack orchestrated by Pike and Shipp, with Peterson serving as a lookout. Over the next harrowing 30 minutes, Slimmer endured taunting, beatings, and slashing. Shockingly, a pentagram was carved into her chest, symbolizing the depth of depravity at play. Ultimately, Pike dealt a fatal blow, smashing Slimmer's skull with a large chunk of asphalt. As a macabre memento, Pike kept a piece of Slimmer's skull. The repercussions of this gruesome crime were far-reaching, shattering the lives of those involved and leaving a community in shock. The missing fragment of Slimmer's skull remains a haunting reminder of the darkness that consumed Pike. Unfathomably, Pike brazenly showcased the gruesome souvenir at school, boasting of her heinous act. Within a mere 36 hours, the authorities arrested Pike, Shipp, and Peterson. The evidence against them was damning, as the logbook revealed that the four had departed together, but only 3 returned. Detectives discovered the fragment of skull in Pike's jacket pocket, leaving little doubt about her involvement. The investigation delved further into the dark abyss when a copy of the Satanic Bible was found in Shipp's room. In the aftermath of her arrest, Pike confessed to the police, acknowledging her role in the torture and slaying of Slimmer. However, she attempted to downplay the severity of their intentions, claiming they had merely intended to scare Slimmer, but the situation spiraled out of control. This feeble attempt to mitigate her actions did little to overshadow the brutality and depravity of the crime. The chilling details of this crime sent shock waves through the community, exposing the depths of human cruelty and the consequences of unchecked malevolence. Krista Pike's involvement in this heinous act serves as a disturbing reminder of the potential for darkness that exists within the human psyche. The tragic loss of Colleen Slimmer's life highlights the devastating impact of jealousy and the alarming lengths to which some individuals will go to satisfy their warped desires. Trial and verdict. During Krista Pike's trial, the prosecution built a strong case against her, supporting by compelling evidence and Pike's own confession. Pike's friends and co-conspirators remained silent about the crime, but her bragging about it to fellow Job Corps attendees became her downfall. Pike's confession revealed disturbing details about the slaying of Colleen Slimmer. She claimed that her motive was rooted in jealousy, believing that Slimmer was trying to steal her boyfriend, Tedderell Shipp. Pike convinced Shipp and Shadola Peterson that Slimmer needed to be sacrificed in the name of Satan. On January 11, 1995, Pike, Shipp, and Peterson lured Slimmer to the woods under the pretense of sharing marijuana. Once there, Pike and Shipp viciously attacked her while Peterson served as a lookout. Slimmer endured approximately 30 minutes of torment, during which she was taunted, beaten, and slashed. Pike even carved a pentagram into her chest. The brutality escalated as Slimmer begged for her life, with Pike responding by kicking her in the face and slashing her throat. Pike ultimately bludgeoned Slimmer to demise with a large piece of asphalt, keeping a fragment of her skull as a macabre souvenir. Although Pike's friends did not report the crime, her indiscretion in showing off the stolen skull fragment to others eventually led the police to her. They interviewed Pike on January 15, 1995, and she voluntarily waived her Miranda rights and confessed to the crime. While initially claiming that she wanted Slimmer to leave her alone, the level of violence and sadism displayed during the slaying suggested a different motive. Pike's defense team attempted to argue that her actions were a result of diminished mental capacity. They called upon experts to testify on her behalf. Dr. Eric Engem acknowledged Pike's severe borderline personality disorder, cannabis dependence, and depression, but stated that she did not exhibit any signs of brain damage or insanity. Another expert, Dr. William Burnett, who specialized in Satanism, testified that Pike's crime contained some satanic elements but was more indicative of adolescent experimentation and collective aggression rather than a true satanic sacrifice. In an effort to humanize Pike and establish mitigating factors, her defense presented family members who testified about her challenging upbringing. However, the testimony of Dr. Deanna McCoy, intended to discuss Pike's diminished capacity, was ultimately excluded from the trial. The prosecution's case relied heavily on Pike's confession and the evidence collected. Pike was charged with first-degree slaying and conspiracy to commit slaying. After only a few hours of deliberation, on March 22, 1996, the jury found Pike guilty on both counts. The severity of the crimes led to a harsh sentence for Pike. On March 30, she was sentenced to demise by electrocution for the slaying charge, in addition to 25 years in prison for the conspiracy charge. Tedderell Shipp received a life sentence with the possibility of parole, plus an additional 25 years. Shadola Peterson, who had turned informant, pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact and received probation. The trial of Krista Pike shed light on the gruesome details of the crime and the complex psychological factors at play. Despite the defense's attempts to present mitigating factors, the overwhelming evidence and testimony presented in court led to Pike's conviction and the imposition of severe punishments for her and her accomplices. The trial ensured that they would face the consequences of their brutal and heinous actions. Krista Pike's legal odyssey. Following the guilty verdict, Krista Pike's legal journey took a series of unexpected twists and turns, keeping the public and legal experts on the edge of their seats. Pike's actions seemed to defy the conventional norms of the appeals process, making her case all the more intriguing. In a surprising move, Pike initially launched an appeal of her conviction in the Tennessee state courts. However, she later canceled the appeal, only to reverse her decision and relaunch it again. The roller coaster of legal maneuvers left her lawyers bewildered as they advised against dropping the appeal. Pike, however, made an extraordinary request. She sought to be executed via electrocution, defying the conventional desire for an appeal process. To everyone's astonishment, criminal court judge Mary Beth Lebowitz granted Pike's request and set an ending date for August 19, 2002. The anticipation and tension surrounding Pike's case reached its peak. But just when it seemed like Pike had sealed her fate, she changed her mind once again. On July 8, 2002, defense lawyers filed a motion to continue the appeal process, attempting to backtrack on Pike's request for ending. However, the motion was denied, leaving Pike's fate hanging in the balance. A glimmer of hope emerged when on August 2, 2002, a three-judge state appeals court panel ruled in favor of continuing the proceedings, sparing Pike from imminent ending. The unexpected turn of events breathed new life into her case, but it also added another layer of uncertainty and complexity. The legal battle continued, with Pike's lawyers exploring every possible avenue to challenge her sentence. In December 2008, Pike's request for a new trial was ultimately denied, and she was sent back to Ending Row. It seemed that Pike had exhausted all her appeals within the framework of Tennessee's criminal justice system, leaving her faith hanging by a thread. However, Pike's tenacious legal team wasn't ready to give up. In May 2014, they took her case to the federal court system, seeking a commutation of her sentence from demise to life in prison. The grounds for the appeal were compelling: ineffective assistance of counsel, Pike's mental illness, and the assertion that capital punishment, as administered in Tennessee, was unconstitutional. The stakes were high, as Pike's fate was once again in the hands of the courts. U.S. District Judge Harry S. Mattis Jr. issued a monumental 61-page ruling on March 11, 2016, rejecting all the grounds presented by Pike's lawyers and denying the requested commutation. The decision dealt a significant blow to Pike's hopes for a different outcome. However, her legal team persisted, and the case made its way to the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. After a long and suspenseful wait, the three-judge panel of the Sixth Circuit unanimously upheld the lower court ruling on August 22, 2019. Pike's appeal was denied once again, leaving her with limited options and the looming specter of her demise sentence. The twists and turns of Krista Pike's legal battle captivated the public, as each decision added layers of complexity and uncertainty. The unexpected nature of Pike's actions and the resilience of her legal team kept the world watching, waiting to see what would unfold next in this extraordinary case. Lurking darkness, prison attack. Within the cold and oppressive confines of the prison, tension simmered beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to erupt into a flurry of violence. It was on that fateful August 24, 2001, that Krista Pike, a name synonymous with darkness, and alleged accomplice Natasha Cornett embarked on a harrowing journey that would forever stain their records. Driven by an insidious motive, Pike and Cornett orchestrated a calculated attack on fellow inmate Patricia Jones. Armed with nothing but a shoestring, Pike lunged at her unsuspecting victim, tightening the makeshift garrote around Jones's throat with a chilling determination. The confines of the prison walls bore witness to a desperate struggle for survival as Jones fought for each precious breath. It was a battle on the brink of life and demise.
Acceptable, and I realize that, but I don't deserve to die for the action. I thought that if I went in there and told him that I did every single thing that happened up there, that Tadero did not have somebody chain me up when I walk out a door or tell me when I can use the bathroom or take full responsibility for this anymore, and I won't, because if I'm gonna die in here, I'm gonna die for my truth.
As the darkness threatened to consume her, Jones clung to hope, praying for salvation from the hands of her assailants. Miraculously, she managed to escape the clutches of Pike's lifeless grip, narrowly avoiding the grip of demise. But the scars left behind, both physical and emotional, would forever serve as a haunting reminder of the brutality she endured. The aftermath of the heinous act led to a grueling legal battle. On August 12, 2004, Pike was dealt a damning blow as she was convicted of attempted first-degree slaying. The courtroom was filled with a heavy silence as the weight of her crimes echoed through the proceedings. The jurors, tasked with unraveling the twisted web of deceit and violence, unanimously rendered their verdict, condemning Pike for her chilling attempt on Jones's life. Yet, amidst the shadowy landscape of this chilling event, the role of Natasha Cornett remained obscured. While suspicions loomed over Cornett's alleged assistance in the attack, the Tennessee Department of Corrections faced an agonizing dilemma. Their investigators scoured the evidence, searching for the elusive threads that could definitely tie Cornett to the heinous crime. Alas, their efforts proved futile, leaving lingering doubts and unanswered questions surrounding Cornett's involvement. The attempted slaying conviction reverberated through the prison walls, sending shockwaves of fear and uncertainty among the inmates. It served as a stark reminder of the depths humanity can sink to when consumed by darkness and driven by sinister intentions. For Pike, the conviction marked another haunting chapter in her troubled journey, while for Jones, it represented both a triumph of survival and a painful reminder of the demons that lurk in the depths of human souls. The foiled prison break. In the depths of March 2012, a chilling revelation shook the confines of Krista Pike's imprisonment. An intricate and audacious plan for a prison break had been set into motion. As the layers of this gripping saga unraveled, a complex web of relationships, desperation, and the relentless pursuit of freedom emerged, painting a vivid picture of the human spirit pushed to its limits. The genesis of this daring plot can be traced back to a most unlikely connection. Donald Cohut, a personal trainer hailing from the distant shores of Flemington, New Jersey, found himself entangled in an inexplicable bond with Pike. What began as a modest exchange of letters between Pike and Cohut in the early months of 2011 soon evolved into a series of face-to-face meetings. Determined to stand by Pike's side, Cohut embarked on a grueling pilgrimage, traveling over 1,800 miles round trip to visit Pike in the confines of her Nashville, Tennessee prison. These visits became a lifeline, a glimmer of hope in the midst of their bleak surroundings. As their relationship deepened, trust blossomed, and Cohut unveiled a plan that would test the limits of their resolve. Cohut, fueled by an unwavering determination, presented Pike with a daring scheme for escape. The specifics of this intricate plan remained shrouded in secrecy, veiled by the Tennessee Department of Corrections due to security concerns. However, an unsealed indictment hinted at the audacious plan involving the tracing and replication of a prison key, an essential piece in their quest for freedom. Yet, destiny had other designs in store. In the early months of 2012, whispers of an impending escape plot reached the ears of vigilant prison personnel. The alarm was sounded, prompting a swift and coordinated response from the Tennessee Department of Corrections, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the New Jersey State Police. Together, they launched a joint investigation aimed at dismantling the conspiracy before it could materialize into a tangible threat. The clock was ticking. The authorities worked tirelessly to dismantle the intricate web that had been spun within the prison's walls. Their efforts proved fruitful as the plan was swiftly intercepted and brought to a grinding halt. Thankfully, the jailbreak, which had loomed ominously on the horizon, was prevented from becoming a chilling reality. The danger that lurked in the shadows of freedom was extinguished, and the public breathed a collective sigh of relief. March 2012 marked a turning point in the lives of the key players involved in this gripping tale. Donald Cohat found himself confronted with the harsh realities of justice, facing charges of bribery and conspiracy to commit escape. His dreams of liberation were shattered as the gavel of the court pronounced a sentence that would confine him to the walls of the Tennessee State Northeast Correctional Complex for a period of 7 years. Meanwhile, the role of Justin Heflin, the corrections officer entangled in the conspirational dance, faced its own reckoning. Heflin, lured by promises of material gain and entranced by the allure of freedom, had chosen a treacherous path. In the aftermath of the foiled prison break, Heflin was arrested and charged with bribery, official misconduct, and conspiracy to commit escape. While he managed to avoid a prison sentence through his cooperation with the authorities, the loss of his position within the Tennessee Department of Corrections served as a haunting reminder of the consequences of his ill-fated choices. The story of the attempted prison break captivated the public's imagination, sparkling endless debates and fueling speculations about the untold possibilities that could have unfolded and had their audacious plan succeeded. The tale stood as a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a testament to the lengths individuals will go to seize their chance at freedom regardless of the consequences. In the annals of criminal history, the foiled prison break led by Krista Pike, Donald Cohat, and aided by the ill-fated alliance with Justin Heflin etched a lasting impression. The battle for Krista Pike's life. In the hallowed halls of justice, where the scales of punishment are meticulously balanced, Krista Gale Pike's fate hangs in the balance. As her legal team makes one final attempt to avert the unthinkable, they face an uphill battle against the prevailing tides of precedent and the weight of previous court rulings. In 2011, the stage was set for a pivotal showdown as Pike's defense lawyers made a compelling argument, contending that young offenders plagued by immaturity, mental illness, and brain damage should be exempt from the ending penalty. They implored the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals to recognize the unique vulnerabilities of 18-year-olds and grant them clemency. However, their plea fell on deaf ears as the court staunchly maintained that juries already had the discretion to consider a slayer's youth and mental health when determining the imposition of the ultimate punishment. Undeterred, Pike's lawyers continued their valiant fight, now shifting their focus to the alleged deficiencies in her trial. They asserted that crucial factors of youth and mental health were not adequately presented to the jury, thereby hindering their ability to make an informed decision. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, however, firmly rejected this argument in 2019, emphasizing that the jury had been privy to a comprehensive narrative, one that painted a vivid picture of Pike's tumultuous childhood and upbringing, attempting to explain the transformation of a troubled soul into a perpetrator of heinous violence. Despite the resounding rejection of Pike's appeal, hope flickered within the hearts of her legal team. They turned their gaze towards the Tennessee Supreme Court, desperately seeking a recommendation for clemency from Governor Bill Lee. The plea was clear: commute Pike's sentence to life with or without a possibility of parole.
The only woman on Tennessee's death row is asking for commutation of her sentence. We here at WH.
Living with taxpayers' money, paying for her to live in jail to get an education.
It is therefore ordered that Daryl Shipp and Shadala Peterson were charged in the 1995 death.
To bolster their case, they requested additional time for a psychologist to evaluate Pike's current mental state, delving into the depths of her being, as well as the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights to conclude their investigation into potential violations of her human rights. All eyes now turn to Governor Lee, a figure whose decision holds the power to alter the course of Pike's life. A delicate balance rests in his hands as he weighs the merits of clemency against the gravity of Pike's crimes. It is worth noting that since his inauguration in 2019, Governor Lee has not granted clemency to any demise row inmate, thus casting a shadow of uncertainty over Pike's fate. The Endanger's gavel has fallen 4 times since then, claiming the lives of men who face their own demons on Ending Row, including the captivating tale of Nicholas Sutton, a Morristown man who found redemption amidst the shadows. Yet, Pike's journey within the confines of prison has been marred by further legal entanglements. In 2004, she was convicted of attempted slaying, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks within her soul. This additional offense only adds to the complexity of her case, further fueling the debate surrounding her potential ending. Pike's legal team, ever vigilant in their pursuit of justice, passionately argues that her ending would mark a historic moment, the first time Tennessee has executed a woman in over 2 centuries. Moreover, they emphasize that she would also be the first person in what is deemed the modern era to be put to demise for a crime committed during her teenage years. These striking facts cast a somber light on the potential irreversible outcome that looms menacingly before us. In this climactic battle for life and redemption, the final chapter of Pike's tumultuous journey has yet to be written. The echoes of her plea resonate through the chambers of justice, echoing the enduring question, will mercy prevail, granting her a chance at redemption? Or will the wheels of justice turn inexorably, etching her name in the annals of Tennessee's dark history? The world watches with bated breath, awaiting the defining moment that will shape the destiny of Krista Gale Pike. Emotional turmoil. The emotional turmoil surrounding Krista Gale Pike's tears before her scheduled ending is a powerful and complex aspect of the broader narrative surrounding her case. Facing imminent demise can elicit a range of emotions, not just for the condemned individual, but also for their loved ones, the public, and even those involved in carrying out the ending. For Krista Gale Pike herself, the reality of impending ending must be an overwhelming and harrowing experience. Knowing that one's life is about to come to an end, especially through such a violent and irreversible means, can lead to profound emotional distress. Pike may be grappling with feelings of fear, regret, sadness, and desperation as she faces the finality of her situation. Tears could be a manifestation of her intense emotional struggle, a response to the gravity of the situation and the fear of the unknown beyond demise. At the same time, Pike's tears may also be a reflection of her remorse and the weight of the crime she committed. Though she has been convicted and sentenced for her actions, the imminent ending may serve as a stark reminder of the life she took and the pain she caused to the victim's family and her own loved ones.
Krista, and Krista and Daryl knocked her down and drug her
through absolute hell. And I can't imagine anybody going through that. And I can't imagine
the weight of guilt and the acknowledgement of the irreversible nature of her crime would contribute to her emotional turmoil. For those witnessing Pike's tears, including her attorneys, prison staff, and other individuals involved in the ending process, the emotional impact can be equally significant. While some may view her tears as a sign of remorse and vulnerability, others might see them as manipulative or insincere attempts to garner sympathy. These conflicting perceptions further add to the complexity of emotions surrounding the situation. Moreover, the public's response to Pike's tears can be multifaceted. Some may empathize with her and question the justice of capital punishment, while others might view her emotions as insufficient justification for her actions and sentence. The emotional turmoil of being condemned person cry before the ending can reignite debates about the humanity of the ending penalty and whether it serves as a just response to heinous crimes. Pike's case could also evoke sympathy and empathy from some people, particularly if they believe that she was a victim of her circumstances, such as troubled upbringing or mental health issues. On the other hand, there may be others who feel little compassion, believing that her crimes were too horrific to warrant any leniency. In conclusion, the emotional turmoil surrounding Krista Gale Pike's tears before her ending is a complex and emotionally charged aspect of her case. It provides a glimpse into the profound psychological impact of facing demise and the diverse range of responses and emotions elicited in both the condemned and the public. It also serves as a reminder of the deeply contentious nature of capital punishment, raising questions about its moral implications and the potential for justice and compassion in the face of such a grave outcome. A desperate plea for mercy is an emotional appeal made by Krista Gale Pike's lawyers as they call for clemency in her case. They argue for an alternative to capital punishment, urging authorities to spare Pike's life. They emphasize factors such as Pike's troubled background, personal growth and rehabilitation, mental health concerns, flaws in the trial proceedings, and broader issues related to the expiry penalty. Pike's lawyers present evidence of a difficult upbringing, hoping to elicit sympathy and understanding. They highlight her educational pursuits, rehabilitation efforts, and positive contributions to the prison community, demonstrating her potential for change. They argue that continued incarceration is a just and humane alternative to putting down. The plea also focuses on Pike's mental health, citing psychiatric evaluations and a history of mental illness to raise questions about her capacity for remorse and reduced culpability. In addition, Pike's lawyers point out flaws in the trial, such as inadequate legal representation or procedural errors. They highlight broader concerns surrounding the ending penalty, including evolving societal attitudes, wrongful convictions, and moral considerations. The outcome of the plea rests in the hands of decision makers who must weigh these arguments against the severity of Pike's crimes and the demands of justice. It is a final attempt to persuade authorities to show mercy and grant Pike clemency, sparing her from the ultimate punishment of slaying. Historical significance. The historical significance of Krista Gale Pike's ending lies in its potential impact on the broader discourse surrounding the ending penalty. Pike's case raises important questions and sparks debates regarding the fairness, effectiveness, and ethical implications of capital punishment, particularly when applied to individuals who committed crimes as juveniles. As the youngest girl on ending row, Pike's ending would mark a significant event in the history of capital punishment. It would serve as a reminder of the rare instances where women have faced the ultimate punishment and highlight the long-standing gender disparities in ending penalty cases. Furthermore, Pike's case stands out due to her age at the time of the crime, bringing attention to the contentious issue of sentencing juveniles to demise. The ending of Pike, who was a teenager when she committed the crime, forces society to confront the complex question of whether it is justifiable to hold individuals accountable for their actions committed during their formative years. This aspect of Pike's case amplifies the ongoing discussion surrounding the culpability and potential for rehabilitation of juvenile offenders. Moreover, the debate over Pike's ending extends to the broader conversation about the efficacy and fairness of the ending penalty itself. It invites reflection on the purposes of punishment, the potential for deterrence, and the role of retribution in the criminal justice system. The case brings to light concerns about the potential arbitrariness and racial disparities in capital punishment, and raises questions about the evolving standards of decency within society. Pike's ending, if carried out, could further fuel discussions about the humanity of the ending penalty and the need for alternative forms of punishment that prioritize rehabilitation and the potential for positive change. It may prompt calls for policy reforms, including reconsideration how the justice system handles cases involving juvenile offenders and individuals with a history of mental health issues. Ultimately, the historical significance of Pike's ending lies in its potential to shape public opinion, challenge existing legal frameworks, and influence the ongoing discourse on the ending penalty. It serves as a catalyst for examining the complexities and moral dilemmas associated with capital punishment, leaving a lasting impact on the trajectory of the broader debate.
Crime. Edmund Emil Kemper III, born on December 18, 1948, is an infamous American serial slayer who committed a series of heinous crimes between May 1972 and April 1973. His victims included 8 individuals, among them a 15-year-old girl, his own mother, and her best friend. What sets Kemper apart is the chilling fact that he had also slayed his paternal grandparents when he was just 15 years old. Kemper gained notoriety as a co-ed slayer due to his modus operandi of targeting female college students who were hitchhiking in the Santa Cruz County area of California. His crimes were marked by extreme brutality, involving acts such as necrophilia, decapitation, and dismemberment. In 1973, Kemper stood trial and was deemed legally sane, ultimately pleading guilty to his crimes. Strangely, he requested the demise penalty, but it was not an option at the time in California. Instead, he was sentenced to 8 concurrent life sentences, ensuring he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Since his conviction, Kemper has been incarcerated at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. This facility specializes in providing medical and mental health care to inmates. It is a place where individuals with complex medical needs, including those with severe mental health issues, are housed and treated. Early life. Edmund Emil Kemper III had a tumultuous upbringing marked by dysfunctional family dynamics and early signs of disturbing behavior. He was the middle child of 3, with 2 sisters, Susan and Alan. His parents, Clarnell and Edmund Jr., had a strained relationship. Edmund Jr. was a World War II veteran turned electrician, while Clarnell often belittled his job as menial. Kemper's size was notable from a young age, weighing a staggering 13 pounds at birth and standing head and shoulders above his peers by the age of 4. However, his behavior was deeply troubling. At just 10 years old, he committed a horrifying act of animal cruelty, burying a pet cat alive, exhuming it, decapitating it, and displaying its head on a spike. This early display of sadistic behavior was an alarming sign of things to come. The darkness within Kemper escalated as he grew older. At 13, he slayed another family cat out of jealousy towards his younger sister, Alan. He kept macabre souvenirs of this act hidden in his closet. Kemper also exhibited a twisted fascination with demise and violence. He confessed to deriving pleasures from deceiving his family about the cat slayings. Disturbingly, Kemper's imagination took a morbid turn. He engaged in bizarre rituals with his sister's dolls, culminating in their decapitation and dismemberment. With his elder sister, Susan, teased him about his teacher. He responded with a chilling remark about slaying her before kissing her. He admitted to sneaking out of his house, armed with a bayonet, to spy on his second-grade teacher through her windows. Kemper's childhood games were equally alarming. He played gas chamber and electric chair with his younger sister, instructing her to tie him up and simulate his ending. He would convulse and feign demise, imitating gas inhalation or electric shock. Alongside his unsettling activities, Kemper narrowly escaped demise on several occasions. his sister tried to push him in front of a train and into a deep pool where he nearly drowned. Despite his troubled disposition, Kemper shared a close bond with his father. However, when his parents divorced in 1961, he was sent to live with his abusive mother, Clarnell, in Helena, Montana. Their relationship was profoundly dysfunctional. Clarnell, a neurotic and alcoholic, subjected Kemper to constant belittlement, humiliation, and misuse. She even forced him to sleep in a locked basement due to unfounded fears that he might harm his sisters. Clarnell's cruelty extended to mocking her son's imposing stature, standing at 6 feet 4 inches, 1.93 meters, by the age of 15, and labeling him a real weirdo in conversations with his father, unaware that he was listening. Clarnell's emotional misuse knew no bounds. She refused to display any affection towards Kemper, fearing it would turn him bi, and repeatedly told him that he would never be loved by any woman. Kemper later described his mother as a sick, angry woman, suggesting she may have had borderline personality disorder. The breaking point for Kemper came at the age of 14, when he ran away from home in an attempt to reunite with his father in Van Nuys, California. To his dismay, he discovered that his father had remarried and now had a stepson. After a brief stay with his father, Kemper was sent to live with his paternal grandparents in North Fork, California. This arrangement further fueled his resentment as he described his grandfather as senile and accused his grandmother of emasculating him and his grandfather. In this tumultuous environment, Kemper's troubled psyche continued to evolve. His early years were marked by disturbing behaviors, including cruelty to animals, fascination with demise, and a dysfunctional family life characterized by parental neglect and misuse. These factors would set the stage for the horrifying acts he would commit as a serial slayer in the years to come. First slayings. Edmund Kemper's first slayings marked a horrifying turn in his already troubled life. Edmund Kemper's descent into violence began on August 27, 1964, within the confines of his family home in California. At the age of 15, he found himself in a heated argument with his grandmother, Maud Matilda Kemper. This altercation was a culmination of pent-up frustrations and unresolved issues within their already troubled family dynamic. In a moment of explosive rage, Kemper abruptly left the room, seeking solace in an act that would forever alter the course of his life. Returning with a rifle that had been given to him by his grandfather, Kemper stood before his grandmother. With chilling determination, he fired a single shot, ending her life in an instant. The brutality of the act was further underscored by the fact that Kemper, seemingly devoid of remorse, proceeded to discharge 2 more rounds into her back. The aftermath was nothing short of a macabre scene, with Maud's lifeless body bearing the horrifying evidence of Kemper's violence. In a haunting twist, her final words, "Oh, you'd better not be shooting the birds again," served as an eerie testament to the senseless brutality that had just unfolded. Shockingly, the violence did not cease with his grandmother. Some accounts suggest that Kemper, in a disturbing escalation of brutality, inflicting additional post-mortem knife wounds using a kitchen knife. This ghastly detail paints a vivid picture of the depths of Kemper's disturbed psyche. Tragically, Kemper's grandfather, Edmund Emil Kemper Sr., returned home.
As an ordinary person most of my life, even though I was living a parallel and increasingly sick life.
A bit and admit that jailers, like at the Tucker farm down in Arkansas, who get...
Am I a masochist? Am I looking to be tormented further? I'm trying to show you just how...
House and people who came by never left. Whole families, individual travelers, would go on for years.
Depending on a mood, that would trigger one or the other. And out at the same time.
That means they run consecutively?
Oh no, that's the opposite of consecutive.
Yeah.
Consecutive, long and violently outspoken position on men for much of my upbringing.
Do you think society should do in generally with serial killers?
Do with them? Like that. There's a lot that leads into that happening, but that is what happened. They represented not what my mother was, but...
And feed them and house them and clothe them for decades. But...
utterly unaware of the horrifying events that had transpired within the walls of his own residence. As he approached the driveway, he was met with a barrage of gunfire. The elderly man, who had likely just completed a routine grocery run, was gunned down, becoming another victim of Kemper's violent rampage. In the aftermath of the bloodshed, Kemper was left in a state of eerie calm. Faced with the weight of his actions, he reached out to his mother for guidance. It was her voice that provided him with the direction he sought. She advised him to contact the authorities, a directive that Kemper carried out with a chilling sense of detachment. The subsequent investigation and legal proceedings cast a harsh light on the disturbing motives behind these slayings. Kemper's confession revealed the disturbing truth. He had taken his grandmother's life simply to experience the sensation of slaying. In a perverse twist of logic, he justified the slayings of his grandfather as an act of sparing him the anguish of discovering his wife's lifeless body. Under the belief that the grief would be directed towards Kemper himself, psychiatrist Donald Lund, who would later analyze Kemper, offered invaluable insight into the warped psychology underlying these actions. He suggested that, in Kemper's deeply disturbed mind, these slayings were an act of retribution, a form of revenge against the perceived abandonment he had endured from both his father and mother. The gravity of Kemper's crimes was not lost on the court-appointed psychiatrists tasked with understanding the incomprehensible actions of a 15-year-old. His diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia painted a grim picture of his mental state, illustrating a mind plagued with delusions and hallucinations. Given the severity of his crimes and the complexity of his mental health, Kemper was deemed unfit for a standard correctional facility. Instead, he was committed to Atascadero State Hospital, a facility designed to cater to the needs of mentally ill offenders, providing them with specialized treatment and care. These first slayings marked a dark, harrowing turning point in Kemper's life. The brutality and calculated nature of these acts serves as a chilling testament to the depths of his depravity. They set the stage for a series of even more horrifying crimes that would cement Kemper's place in the annals of American criminal history. The events of that fateful day remain an indelible stain on the collective memory, a stark reminder of the capacity of unfathomable violence within the human psyche. Kemper's Atascadero rehabilitation journey. Edmund Kemper's life took a dramatic turn when he was committed to Atascadero State Hospital after the gruesome slayings of his grandparents in 1964. This period of imprisonment and psychiatric evaluation would reveal a complex and chilling aspect of his character. Upon his arrival at Atascadero, the initial assessments and diagnosis differed significantly from those made by the court-appointed psychiatrists during his trial. The California Youth Authority psychiatrists and social workers at Atascadero did not find the same signs of severe mental illness. Their reports indicated that Kemper did not display flight of ideas, interference with thought, delusions, hallucinations, or bizarre thinking. Instead, they noted his intelligence and introspective nature. Remarkably, Kemper's IQ was tested at 136 during his time at Atascadero, which was more than 2 standard deviations above the average. Later, he underwent another IQ test, yielding an even higher score of 145. These test results painted a picture of a highly intelligent individual, whose mental capacity stood out in stark contrast to his gruesome crimes. Kemper's time at Atascadero was marked by his efforts to rehabilitate himself and portray himself as a model prisoner. He actively participated in psychiatric assessments and even received training to administer psychiatric tests to fellow inmates. This willingness to work cooperatively with the staff earned him the favor of the psychiatrists, who found him to be an exceptional worker. A psychiatrist later noted he was a very good worker, and this is not typical of a sociopath. He really took pride in his work. In a surprising twist, Kemper also became a member of the JCs while at Atascadero. More notably, he claimed to have made contributions to the field of psychiatric testing during his interactions with the hospital psychiatrists. Specifically, he mentioned developing a scale called the Overt Hostility Scale as a part of his work with the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. a widely used psychological assessment tool. However, it was during this time that Kemper revealed the disturbing facet of his character.
And out of nowhere, they found a skull up in the mountains near Loma Prieta.
Homicides in those days. So we did not have a whole lot of experience in doing this sort of thing. Do an inquiry, I could go into the computer, find somebody's criminal history, that sort of thing.
Sometimes we refer to this as the golden age of criminalistics. And the reason we do that is we used all sorts of other
They also will include dental charts. So we got those dental charts, compared them to the one that we had from the skull.
He confessed to manipulating his psychiatrists, citing his ability to understand the inner workings of the tests he administered to other inmates. In a chilling admission, he acknowledged learning from the physical activity offenders he evaluated, using this knowledge to manipulate and deceive the very professionals who were tasked with assessing his mental state. Kemper's time at the Atascadero was a complex period in his life. On one hand, he demonstrated a high level of intelligence and cooperated with the psychiatric staff, even making contributions to their work. His capacity for manipulation and his ability to present a facade of rehabilitation raised troubling questions about the true nature of his character. These experiences would foreshadow the enigmatic and multifaceted personality of Edmund Kemper, providing a glimpse into the mind of a deeply disturbed individual capable of both cooperation and manipulation. His time at the Atascadero served as a prelude to the even more horrifying crimes he would commit in the future, leaving a haunting legacy in the annals of American criminal history. Kemper's release and transformation. After being released on parole from Atascadero on his 21st birthday, December 18, 1969, Edmund Kemper's life took a significant turn. Contrary to the advice of hospital psychiatrists, Kemper was entrusted to the care of his mother, Clarnell, who had previously remarried and taken the surname Strandberg before later divorcing again. She was residing in Aptos, California, not far from her job as an administrative assistant at the University of California, Santa Cruz. In a bid to prove his rehabilitation, Kemper actively engaged with his psychiatrists and demonstrated positive progress. This eventually led to the permanent expungement of his juvenile records on November 29, 1972. The probation psychiatrists noted that, based on their evaluations, Kemper appeared to be a well-adjusted young man with initiative, intelligence, and no apparent psychiatric illnesses. They even advocated for the permanent expunction of his juvenile records, believing it would afford him the opportunity to develop his potential as an adult. During his time with his mother, Kemper adhered to the requirements of his parole by attending community college. He harbored aspirations of becoming a police officer, a dream that was dashed due to his imposing stature. Standing at an imposing 6 feet 9 inches tall, he earned the moniker Big Ed. Despite this rejection, Kemper maintained amicable relationships with local police officers and frequented a bar called the Jury Room, a popular hangout for law enforcement in the area. Kemper initially worked in various low-level jobs before finding employment with the state of California divisions of highways. However, his relationship with Clarnell remained fraught with toxicity and hostility. They engaged in frequent and volatile arguments that were often overheard by neighbors. Kemper vividly described these intense conflicts, revealing the deep-seated discord between mother and son. Frustrated by the ongoing tension, Kemper eventually moved in with a friend in Alameda once he had saved enough money. However, he still found it challenging to fully distance himself from his mother.
Physical objects, my possessions, other people's, destruction of things that are cared about, and then destruction of things, or a gap, or let's say an adult came along and started sharing something with them or showed them a new avenue of to get me. And I knew I was paranoid at that moment. I knew anybody that came up there and gave me a funny look or a fishy eye or there. She kind of preceded this female movement we have now of getting rights, of getting equal rights, of getting equal. Give her a Christmas present. Leave her alone. She got her pound of flesh out of you. I wasn't sniveling about my mother to them. I didn't like to hear what they had to say about it. Developed, and I'm not. It's not fair to talk about a dead person that way. They can't defend themselves. They can't give you another perspective on what. Talk to me again. It was awful. It wasn't sexual or grabbing at her or nothing. I was just such a dork. Taking her to a John Wayne movie. That's normal. Not necessarily healthy, but that happens. And my dad, being the wimp out of his family,
who incessantly called and made surprise visits. Financial difficulties further complicated his situation, leading him to return to his mother's apartment in Aptos frequently. During this time, in his early 20s, Kemper became engaged to a student from Turlock High School in March 1973. The engagement endured for over a year before being terminated due to Kemper's second arrest. The young woman's identity was kept private at her parents' request, and she was reportedly 17 and still attending high school at the time. In the same period, Kemper faced a life-altering event when he was struck by a car while riding his newly acquired motorcycle. This accident resulted in a severe arm injury, prompting him to file a civil suit against the driver and ultimately receiving a substantial settlement. With part of the settlement money, he purchased a 1969 Ford Galaxy. It was during this time that he began to notice a significant number of young women hitchhiking, which ignited a dark pattern of behavior. He started equipping his car with plastic bags, knives, blankets, and handcuffs. Initially, he picked up these young women and let them go without harm, but it was the emergence of homicidal physical urges, which he chillingly referred to as his Lil Zappos, that eventually led him to act on these impulses. Kemper's growing rage and the deep-seated societal frustrations he harbored played a sinister role in the dark path he was about to embark upon. His encounters with hitchhikers would ultimately pave the way for a series of horrifying crimes that would cement his status as one of America's most infamous serial slayers. Between May 1972 and April 1973, Edmund Kemper embarked on a horrifying slaying spree, claiming the lives of 8 victims, all of whom were young women. His method of operation was chillingly systematic. Kemper would prey on female students hitchhiking, luring them to isolated locations where he subjected them to brutal acts of violence. His victims met their end through various means, including shootings, knifings, suffocations, and strangulations. Kemper's atrocities did not end with their demises. He would transport their lifeless bodies back to their residence, where he committed further unspeakable acts. At his home, Kemper engaged in macabre ritual. He decapitated the victims, indulged in necrophilic acts, and then dismembered their remains. This grotesque pattern of behavior was the grim aftermath of his slaying acts, reflecting the depth of his depravity. Targets of tragedy. During this 11-month reign of terror, Kemper's victims included 5 college students, a high school student, his own mother, and his mother's best friend. It is worth noting that Kemper himself acknowledged that he often sought out victims following heated arguments with his mother, who had intentionally isolated him from the women associated with her workplace. Kemper revealed that his mother would deride him. Psychiatrists and Kemper himself have proposed a disturbing theory regarding his choice of victims. They believe that the young women he targeted served as substitutes for his ultimate target, his mother. The tragic fates of Marianne Pesci and Anita Lucchesa. On May 7, 1972, Kemper's slaying spree began with the brutal slayings of Marianne Pesci and Anita Mary Lucchesa, both 18-year-old students from Fresno State University. Posing as a good Samaritan, Kemper offered to drive them to Stanford University. However, he diverted from the agreed-upon route, taking them to a remote wooded area near Alameda, known to him from his work at the Highway Department. There, he committed unspeakable acts. First, handcuffing Pesci and locking Lucchesa in the trunk before taking their lives. The chilling detail emerged that, in the midst of this horror, Kemper's actions were momentarily interrupted by an accidental touch, an event he bizarrely acknowledged. Kemper later justified his choice of victims, claiming they appeared to belong to a more privileged social class. The tragic fate of Aiko Koo. On September 14, 1972, Kemper encountered Aiko Koo, a 14-year-old dance student who had resorted to hitchhiking after missing her bus to a dance class. Kemper's manipulation led them to a remote area, where he subjected Koo to a nightmarish ordeal. After attacking and slaying her, Kemper concealed her body in his car and nonchalantly went for drinks before returning to his apartment. There, he committed further heinous acts before dismembering and disposing of her remains. The tragic fate of Cynthia Shaw. On January 7, 1973, Edmund Kemper encountered his victim, 18-year-old student Cindy Shaw, near the Cabrillo College campus. Using manipulation, he coerced her into his car and drove to a secluded area, where he callously shot her with a .22 caliber pistol. He then callously transported her lifeless body to his mother's residence. Once there, Kemper committed a series of horrifying acts. He engaged in physical intercourse with Cindy's lifeless body, proceeded to remove the bullet from her, and then carried out a gruesome dismemberment and decapitation in his mother's bathtub. Subsequently, Kemper retained Cindy's severed head for a prolonged period, using it in appalling acts of necrophilia. Eventually, he chose to bury the head in his mother's garden, a perverse gesture directed towards her. The remainder of Cindy's remains, save for her head and right hand, were discarded, and over the ensuing weeks, investigators painstakingly reconstructed the grisly puzzle. The tragic fate of Rosalind Thorpe and Allison Liu. On February 5, 1973, Edmund Kemper sought out victims on the campus of UCSC. He targeted two students, 23-year-old Rosalind Heather Thorpe and 20-year-old Alice Helen Allison Liu. Kemper utilized the sticker he obtained from his mother, who worked at the university, to approach them. In a horrific act, he fatally shot both Rosalind and Allison. After the slayings, Kemper took the victims' lifeless bodies to his car, where he proceeded to behead them. He then transported the headless corpses to his mother's residence. There, he committed further abhorrent acts, engaging in necrophilia with the remains, dismembering them, and removing the bullets to hinder identification. In the aftermath of these heinous crimes, some of the victims' remains were discovered at various locations over the ensuing weeks. The tragic fate of Clarnell Strandberg. On April 20th, 1973, Clarnell Strandberg tragically became the victim of her own son, Kemper. After Kemper returned home from a party, he launched a horrifying attack on his mother, who was peacefully engrossed in a book in her bed. Employing a claw hammer, he subjected her to a savage beating before using a penknife to slit her throat. The brutality didn't end there. Kemper proceeded to decapitate his mother and subjected her remains to further acts of unspeakable desecration. This included displaying her severed head, shouting at it, and even using it as a target for thrown darts. In a horrifying twist, he removed Clarnell's tongue and larynx, adding to the shocking brutality of his actions. After committing this atrocious act, Kemper concealed his mother's lifeless body within a closet, attempting to hide the grim aftermath of his heinous crime. Trial. Edmund Kemper's trial began on October 23, 1973. After he was indicted on 8 counts of first-degree slaying on May 7, 1973. Kemper was represented by the Chief Public Defender of Santa Cruz County, Attorney Jim Jackson. Given Kemper's explicit and detailed confession, his defense's primary strategy was to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. During his time in custody, Kemper attempted suicide twice, underscoring the gravity of the charges against him. At the trial, 3 court-appointed psychiatrists examined Kemper and concluded that he was legally sane. Dr. Joel Forth, one of the psychiatrists, delved into Kemper's juvenile records and the previous diagnosis of psychosis. He also conducted interviews with Kemper, even using truth serum. Forth informed the court about Kemper's disturbing claim of cannibalism, stating that he allegedly cut flesh from his victim's legs, cooked it, and consumed it. However, Forth ultimately determined that Kemper was fully aware of his actions in each case, and suggesting that Kemper revealed in the notoriety of being labeled the Slayer. Kemper later retracted his confession of cannibalism. The trial applied the McNaughton standard, which required the defendant to prove that, at the time of the act, they were incapable of understanding the nature and quality of their actions due to a mental illness. Despite Kemper's troubled mental state, it was evident that he knew the nature of his acts and exhibited signs of premeditation.
We were good friends. We worked a lot of cases together. Person that saw them getting into a car. And that's about as far as we got at that time.
This is the point at which the kids now have to adjust to a whole new place of living.
I just was in shock. We're only 15.
Surprising, because that's really a fantasy of total control over others.
What's that? And I get on the bus.
Kemper himself took the stands on November 1st and testified that he slayed his victims because he wanted to possess them. He attempted to convince the jury that his actions could only be the result of an abnormal mind. He claimed that two distinct personalities resided within him and that the Slayer personality would take over, leading to a kind of blackout. After 5 hours of deliberation on November 8, 1973, the jury declared Kemper sane and guilty on all counts. Although Kemper requested the demise penalty, capital punishment was under moratorium in California at the time. Consequently, he received 7 years to life for each count, to be served concurrently. Kemper's evolving diagnosis. During Kemper's trial for the slayings of his grandparents, court-appointed psychiatrists diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. The diagnosis was based on their evaluation of his mental state at the time. However, there was a notable disagreement among mental health professionals. The psychiatrists at the California Youth Authority and social workers at Atascadero State Hospital, where Kemper was held, contested this diagnosis. They argued that Kemper did not exhibit key symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia, such as a disorganized thought process, hallucinations, or delusions. Instead, they noted that he displayed a high level of intelligence and introspection, and his thought patterns were logical and coherent. As a result of this difference in professional opinion, Kemper underwent a re-evaluation of his mental condition. In this process, he was re-diagnosed with a personality trait disturbance, passive-aggressive type. This new diagnosis indicated that Kemper exhibited traits associated with passive-aggressive behavior, which could manifest as resistance to authority or hostility in an indirect manner. Upon his transfer to the California's medical facility in 1973, Kemper's mental state was once again subject to evaluation. This time, psychiatrists identified a combination of antisocial, narcissistic, and schizotypal personality disorders. These disorders collectively suggested a pattern of behavior characterized by a disregard for the rights of others, an inflated sense of self-importance, and tendencies towards social isolation and eccentricity. This complex journey through various diagnoses highlights the challenges mental health professionals faced in accurately assessing Kemper's condition. Kemper's disturbing confession. In his final statements, Edmund Kemper, a serial slayer who took the lives of several young women, reflects on his actions, motivations, and the profound impact on his life. He begins by acknowledging that he's not an expert or an authority, but rather someone who committed heinous crimes for almost 2 decades. Kemper starts by addressing the unsettling possibility that there may be more individuals engaging in similar crimes. He hints that the number of potential offenders might be higher than one would expect in society. He attributes his ability to evade captures for so long to the fact that he could present himself as an ordinary, non-threatening person to his victims. Reflecting on his own motivations, Kemper delves into the psychological turmoil that drove him to commit these gruesome acts. He revealed that his slayings were driven by deep-seated emotional and psychological issues, including feelings of impotence in social and physical interactions. He sought control and ownership over his victims as a way to cope with these overwhelming emotions. Kemper speaks about the duality of his life, how he could seamlessly switch between his normal persona and his alter ego. He describes the intense energy and rage that he felt, which could be triggered by mood swings. He underscores the importance of appearances, explaining how he maintained the facade of a regular person even while he committed his crimes. Throughout his confession, Kemper frequently alludes to his mother's influence on his actions. He portrays her as a toxic and domineering figure in his life, contributing to his violent tendencies. He shares disturbing incidents from his childhood, such as his mother's insistence on consuming the flesh of their pet chickens, which may have played a role in his psychological development.
Girls, we just nonstop talking. It was a nonstop conversation.
And there's a story that at one point he glimpsed her undressed in the bedroom.
Up to the Berkeley UC campus to feed the squirrels. Last night we ate fudge. I was all excited because I hadn't seen her for a while.
She was supposed to be at a dance studio. Knew what bus she was supposed to take.
Maybe you should have just missed the bus. Maybe you should have just ran over.
Frida, and Elfrida found Ed to be kind of creepy.
Kemper continues to recount specific instances of his crimes, highlighting moments where he narrowly escaped detection. He acknowledges that he could have been apprehended multiple times, but managed to avoid it due to the bystanders' reluctance to get involved or his own ability to deceive the police. He also reflects on his fascination with television crime shows and how they provided insights into police procedures and criminal behavior. He mentions the need to avoid discussing his crimes with others to evade suspicion and describes his encounters with law enforcement officers while having firearms and evidence of his crimes in his possession. In the final moments of his confession, Kemper touches upon the concept of the friendly nuisance, a term he uses to describe his interactions with law enforcement. He suggests that some serial slayers may go undetected as long as they remain discreet and do not share their activities with others. Kemper implies that it was ultimately his decision to turn himself in, marking the end of his slaying spree. The chilling account of Edmund Kemper provides a glimpse into the mind of a serial slayer, shedding light on the complexities of his motivations, his ability to maintain a dual life, and the profound impact of his actions on his own psyche. His confession serves as a stark reminder of the dark and disturbing aspects of human nature. Imprisonment. Confined within the walls of the California Medical Facility, Kemper shared his living space with infamous figures of criminal history, including Herbert Mullin and Charles Manson. Among them, Kemper harbored a particular disdain for Mullin, whose own slaying spree unfolded concurrently and in close proximity. Standing at an imposing 6 feet 9 inches, Kemper towered over Mullin by a foot, a stark physical reminder of Kemper's dominance. In an attempt to assert control, Kemper resorted to manipulation and physical intimidation, recounting an episode where he doused Mullin with water to quell his disruptive behavior, only to later reward him with peanuts when he acquiesced. This method Kemper termed behavior modification treatment. Despite the chilling backdrop of his past, Kemper managed to carve out an unexpected role as a model prisoner within the broader inmate population. In a testament to his peculiar slays, he took charge of organizing fellow inmates' appointments with psychiatrists. Additionally, Kemper revealed a hidden talent in crafting intricate ceramic cups, showcasing a level of dexterity and creativity that defied the sinister context of his life. Furthermore, Kemper found purpose in a philanthropic endeavor, becoming a prolific narrator for an audiobook program dedicated to assisting the visually impaired. By 1987, he had become the linchpin of the prison's initiative, accumulating an astounding 5,000 hours of recorded material and several hundred completed audiobooks. This venture came to an end in 2015, following a debilitating stroke that rendered Kemper medically disabled. Tragically, in 2016, Kemper incurred his first rules violation for failing to provide a urine sample, marking a stark departure from his otherwise orderly prison record.
Message of don't hitchhike, seriously. And we did see a change.
Do you hitchhike?
Rapes and girls being chopped up and things like that.
Without any suspect whatsoever. This guy was covered his tracks really well.
Man who didn't dress or look any different than lots of student types.
It's the same acrimonious relationship with his mother that his father had had.
Sit there and not be a major part of the conversation, but he was just basically listening.
And she was really good at making pie. Everybody was always happy when she would come to a...
Throughout his imprisonment, Kemper participated in numerous interviews, shedding light on the psyche of serial slayers. FBI profiler John Douglas regarded Kemper as one of the most intellectually astute inmates he encountered. Noting his rare insight for a violent criminal, Douglas developed a personal fondness for Kemper, finding him friendly, open, sensitive, and possessing a good sense of humor. Kemper willingly discusses the heinous nature of his crimes, emphasizing that his interviews aim to prevent others from following a similar path. In one interview, he implores those struggling with violent urges to seek help, emphasizing that merely thinking about such acts is not a crime. He highlighted the insidious nature of these thoughts and their potential to spiral out of control. This motive underlined his interview with French writer Stéphane Bourgoin in 1991. Despite his eligibility for parole starting in 1979, Kemper has been consistently denied release, choosing to waive his hearing several times. He expressed understanding that society is not prepared for his reintegration, given the gravity of his offenses. This sentiment was echoed by the prosecutor, Ariadne Simmons, who emphasized the enormity of his crimes in his 2007 parole hearing. As of his last parole hearing in 2017, Kemper remains incarcerated, with his next eligibility scheduled for 2024. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.